So tell us about your family.
I'm sure the story would be more interesting if I came from a dysfunctional family, but I didn't. My mom and dad were perfect. My dad was a real gentleman. Um, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 7, and my mom and I moved down to Miami Beach. And um, my mom became a professional dancer at the age of 50. Here's a picture of her with her partner Tom, who she married. And she also took up golf at the age of 50. And within a year, she became the club champion. And I used to go down and play with her every Sunday morning down in Fort Lauderdale. And I never beat her. I never beat her.
Sounds like you had a great relationship.
We did. She raised me well, and boy, did she love Vegas. I used to take her there. Remember that time I was telling you about in between wives? There was a period there about 4 years, and if I didn't have a girlfriend, I would take my mother to Vegas. And she absolutely loved it. I remember one time, after one trip, she said to me, "Do you know how much money you've won?" And I said, "No, I don't have the vaguest idea." She says, "Well, I kept track. We was with you on 8 trips. You won a little over $50,000. And I said, "Wow. I mean, today that would be like $150,000 to $200,000. And I said, "I never really kept track. I know I bought you a new television set. I bought you some furniture, and I bought some stuff for me. But I just never figured it was that much." But we had a great relationship. We never lied to each other. And
So is that how you raised your son?
exactly, yeah. We never lied to each other except once. And I'll tell you what happened.
Tell me.
He used to challenge me when he was 12 or 13 years old. He used to challenge me to arm wrestle. And at 12 or 13, I could beat him. But when he turned 14, he started lifting weights on our patio. And I knew my time was coming to an end. So he comes in one time, he says, "Dad, let's arm wrestle." And I said, "Barry, you know you've never beaten me. But I'll tell you what, let me give you a little edge. I'm going to give you a teaspoon of sugar under your tongue. And that's going to give you some extra energy." That's the first time I lied to him, because if you know anything about sugar, it makes you weak. And if you put it under your tongue, that's the second fastest way to get it into the bloodstream. Injection is the first way. So he trusted me, and he took this teaspoon of sugar, and he comes to me, and I went, boom, come back next year.
And he was always honest with you?
As far as I know, he was. And I'll give you an idea. When he was 14, he came to me and he said, "Dad, at our high school there's so many drugs going around, but most of it is pills and stuff, and I'm scared to death. I won't take any pills. But they're talking about weed, and I was just wondering, what do you think? Can I try it?" So he asked me for permission. Now, it would have been very easy for me to say no, but knowing what peer pressure is, I knew eventually he would succumb and he would try it. And then that would have been his first lie, and after that it gets easier and easier.
True.
So I said to him, "Barry, you know how I feel about any kind of drugs, but if you really want to try it, go ahead, just realize what my views on it are." So he comes to me the next day and says, "Well, Dad, I tried it, but I didn't really get anything out of it. But they say that you don't get anything the first time. Can I try it again?" And I said, "All right, Barry, but this is the second time and the last time." And so he did, and that was my story of the weed.
Well, very interesting. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have a half-brother, in other words, a brother from another mother, when my dad remarried. And my brother and I are very, very close. He's married to a wonderful wife. She had a child before him. They've got 2 kids together, and the kids are great. He just became a grandfather. I just recently became a great-grandfather. My son's oldest daughter just gave birth, and so we had two beautiful daughters, Courtney, the one who gave birth, and the 16-year-old Ella.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Your family name,
Franzblau, yeah.
Very unusual.
Yes, it is. Actually, there's only one family of Franzblaus. We're all related, and the name goes on because we have a tendency to reproduce male children with blue eyes. There were 7 brothers, which gives you an idea, that came over from Hungary in the early 1820s. Part of that family went back to Hungary, and then that side of the family came back over in the 1920s. Now, my father was one of 5 brothers and 2 sisters, so it gives you an idea. And he had 2 sons. I had a son. My brother had 2 sons. My son is the one who broke the mold. He had 2 daughters. I don't know what happened. But that's why the name goes on. And anytime you run into a Franzblau, it's going to be a relative of mine. Now, some years ago, I was at a family reunion, which happened to be here in Florida, and the patriarch of the family told the story. I can't vouch for it, I don't know, but it was an interesting story. And he said that originally our family was from Spain, and that we got out during the Inquisition, and we got out with our money. And from Spain, we went to France. From France, we emigrated to England. Now, it was about that time that surnames were coming in. Before that, you were just known as John from Poughkeepsie or something like that. But now, you were known as Johnson, which was John's son. And so Franzblau means, it's Austrian for French blue. So the Englishmen called us the Frenchman with the blue eyes. So that was French blue. And from there, when we went to Hungary, the name became Franzblau. In fact, if you look at the old Hungarian flag, the blue color on there is called Franzblau, because it's almost like a cobalt blue. And I do have some relatives.
Do you have here in the U.S. any relatives?
In the U.S. we do. I lost a lot during the Holocaust, but we do have some relatives here in the a lot of them actually, all over. When we used to go to a different city, the first thing that we did was take a telephone book. That's something that we had before the internet, the white pages, and we would look up and see if there was a Franzblau. And if there was, we would call them and try to learn what the relationship was. Well, this one came from my Aunt Frances in New Jersey, and and so on, and we would try to see. And one time, when I was in the Army, I was on a bus. We were traveling through Aiken, South Carolina. And we were downtown, and I look out the window of the bus, and there's this sign, Franzblau Hardware. And I wanted to get off the bus and go find out where they were from. Sarge had other ideas.
So, tell me about the Army, your adventures.
Okay, that brings me to the next chapter, all in the Army.
Yeah.